All right, let's get into it. We all know the name William Shakespeare, right? But what if I told you that one of his most famous comedies was basically built on a story written by somebody else? A guy who was a writer, a satirist, a playwright, and get this, a plague doctor.
It's a really good question, isn't it? We tend to think of these geniuses as creating everything out of thin air. But the Elizabethan era was this incredible, chaotic melting pot of ideas. Writers were constantly borrowing, adapting, and remixing stories. Shakespeare was an absolute master at it, which really begs the question, who were these original storytellers? So let's zoom in on a classic, As You Like It. You know the one. It's got mistaken identities, lovers chasing each other through the Forest of Arden, exiled dukes, the whole shebang. It feels like pure Shakespeare. But the entire plot, the setting, the characters, that all came from a single, super popular book from that time.
And this is it. It's called Rosalynde, published back in 1590. This thing was basically the blockbuster novel of its day. It's about a young woman named Rosalynde, whose father, the king, gets kicked out of his kingdom. So she runs away to the Forest of Arden and disguises herself as a shepherd boy named Ganymede. Now, doesn't that ring a bell? Shakespeare pretty much lifted the entire story.
So who was this guy? Who was the brain behind this story that Shakespeare made so famous? Well, his name was Thomas Lodge. And trust me, his own life story is almost as wild and interesting as the tales he wrote.
Yeah. See, Lodge wasn't just some romance writer. That last word on the screen there, physician, that probably made you do a double take. And it should. Because this guy's career was just staggeringly, almost unbelievably diverse. I mean, just look at this list. This is a heck of a resume. He's writing these charming love stories one minute, and then he's writing these scathing satires attacking the corruption in London. He's writing plays about ancient Roman history, translating classical poetry, and then he just completely switches gears and becomes a medical doctor. He was the definition of a true Renaissance man. So, okay, let's take a quick tour through his literary world. This is where you can really see just how much he could jump between completely different styles and subjects. It's pretty amazing.
First up, his greatest hit, Rosalynde. This is pure pastoral escapism. You've got this dreamy, idealized countryside where nobles who've been kicked out of court find true love. It's sweet, it's romantic, and it was exactly the kind of thing Elizabethan audiences just couldn't get enough of.
But then, talk about a 180. Just 6 years earlier, he wrote this, An Alarm Against Usurers. This is the absolute opposite of a dreamy romance. It's a gritty, angry pamphlet going after the loan sharks of London. It's a raw warning about the very real dangers of getting into debt. The contrast is just wow. And he wasn't done. He also wrote for the theater. This play, The Wounds of Civil War, is a heavy-duty historical tragedy. It's all about ambition, betrayal, and total political chaos in ancient Rome. He was digging into these huge themes about what happens when power goes unchecked, a topic that's pretty much timeless, right?
And this slide just sums it all up perfectly. On one hand, you've got A Marguerite of America, a wild adventure romance set in the Americas, full of heroism and fantastical stuff. And on the other hand, Katharos, which is this sharp, philosophical takedown of his own society, using this ancient cynic, Diogenes, to call out all the hypocrisy he saw. He could be a blockbuster entertainer and a fierce social critic, almost in the same breath.
This quote really just nails it. His versatility wasn't just a fun fact about him, it was the core of who he was as a writer. The man was a master of so many different forms.
Okay, so just when Lodge is at the absolute peak of his literary fame, he does something nobody saw coming. He basically puts down his pen and decides to change careers completely.
Just look at this timeline. He publishes his most famous books in the 1590s, right? And then, right around 1600, he just stops. He completely walks away from the literary world to go study medicine. And the next big thing he publishes isn't a novel, it's a medical textbook.
So in 1603, a horrible plague outbreak hits London, and Lodge, now a brand new doctor, jumps into action. He writes A Treatise of the Plague, which was basically a practical survival guide for everyday Londoners. The same guy who wrote about an imaginary, idyllic forest was now writing about how to survive a very real crisis.
So, how do we remember Thomas Lodge? Is he just a bit of trivia, just the guy who gave Shakespeare a story, or is there something more? Well, I think the answer is pretty clear.
Let's just break it down. Yes, he gave us the plot for As You Like It, and that alone is huge. But his influence went way beyond that.
His romantic writing style was copied by tons of other writers. His satires give us this incredible, raw look into the social problems of his time. And his life story? I mean, come on, that jump from art to science is just fascinating. He was a major, multi-talented figure of his time.
At the end of the day, Thomas Lodge wasn't just a footnote in Shakespeare's story. He deserves to be remembered for who he was, a major writer who made his own unique mark on fiction, drama, and poetry during one of the most exciting times in history.
And really, learning about a guy like Lodge makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other brilliant creators and forgotten stories are out there, just hiding in the shadows of the handful of giant names that we all know so well?